Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor here to welcome His Excellency Ditmir Bushati, the Foreign Minister of Albania. It's and I would like to thank the Institute of International Relations for organizing this event. Mr. Hoki Khan has also already introduced His Excellency from the point of view of his personal background, so I don't have to add much to this. But I would like to emphasize that Foreign Minister Bushati has come here as a representative of the government, whose main slogan and political program is European Albania. So it's a government which is committed to European integration, to the European perspective. And it's and under their leadership, Albania is going through a similar experience which we used to have and which we call return to Europe. So, as we know, there is not just one return of Europe, which would be Czech return of Europe. There have been many Central European returns of Europe. And of course, there are returns to Europe which take place in the region which we call Western Balkans today. And it needs to be said that Albania has already achieved important milestones on this return. Since 2009, Albania has been the member of the NATO, and not only that it has been a member of NATO, it has also contributed significantly to some of the key NATO missions. Since last year, Albania has become the EU candidate country, which, as all of us remember, is actually a very important step of the stabilization. It's not something which would mean the fulfillment of the task. It's actually rather it's a start of an important endeavor, which involves all kinds of important institutional, political and societal changes. And it's good actually that Albania fulfilled these preconditions which were necessary to become the EU candidate. And now it will have opportunity to fully realize its European program. I have already mentioned Albania's important contribution to the military security, being an active member of the NATO. I would also like to mention another dimension of security, where Albania is going to play an important and even more important role in future, namely the energy security. Because I think I'm not wrong if I say that it's this year that Albania is about to start the construction of the Albanian part of the pipeline, which is called Trans-Adriatic Pipeline. And this pipeline should be an important contribution to the European energy security. It will help provide to interconnect our European energy networks, and it will reduce our flexibility in dealing actually with the energy suppliers. I'm really grateful that I have this honor to invite His Excellency for the speech. I regret that I will not be able to participate at the whole of the session, but I'm sure that I will be able to catch most of the speech within the next 20 minutes. I'm able to stay. So thanks once again, Your Excellency, for your visit, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Thank you very much, Director. I'll try to be shorter than 20 minutes in order to allow you at least to get my speech. Thank you for welcoming me today and for giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts on challenges that we currently face in the Western Balkans. 2015 marks the 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. And unfortunately, as we celebrate this anniversary, the question of war and peace in Europe has become once more a prominent and current issue. A tremendous amount of efforts were spent during these 70 years in building and an international order based on international law. Nowadays, European security is being threatened by state and non-state actors in Europe, and mostly our east and south. As a consequence, the project of Europe Poland Free becomes even more pressing as the security, energy and humanitarian challenges are looming. This is not an introduction on a future doomy scenario, rather a remark on the current debate that revolves around key security issues. Ukraine, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Libya, religious and violent extremism, global pandemics, climate change have become key concerns, demanding that our joint efforts be directed towards these issues. Compared to the above-mentioned topics, the Western Balkan countries certainly seems to have become rather boring places. In a way, this is a very good news. Geographically, the Western Balkan countries are European. The EU surrounds us. Politically, our countries have all one common goal, becoming EU member states. This has created a regional solidarity that cannot be underestimated. For a region that has had a troubled past, this is a great achievement. But the facts on the ground tell also another story. It is particularly telling to watch closely three indicators for the period 2003-2011, a period of considerable economic growth just before the euro crisis fully exploded. If you compare GDP, gross national income, and the growth for annual exports for goods and services per capita from 2003 to 2011, it is obvious that the Western Balkan countries have remained poor compared not only to the EU member states, but also to the Balkan countries that have since joined the European Union. This means that our region is not only diverse in terms of economic development, but that the EU integration process still reflects realities of the past century. Try to compare, for instance, Czechoslovakia and the Balkans in the interwar period. Whilst your country saw the flowering of democracy, economic growth and industrial strengthening, the Balkans were making their first state-building efforts while trying to move away from bad influences of the fallen empires of 19th century Europe. One might argue that, unfortunately, the gap that existed in the interwar period is still persistent today. This is why the EU integration process in the Western Balkans must be guided by the necessity to close existing development gaps in our region. In such a context, I cannot help noticing today's paradoxical discourse on the European Union. In the member states, the debate about the European Union is all about fiscal consolidation, public expenditure, unemployment, immigration, and whether the EU made the right call when it accepted this or a new member state to join the club. Seen from the outside, the EU remains the most appealing model for peace, democratic stability, social well-being, and economic success. The European project is indeed experiencing a test of endurance, which has only two outcomes: further integration or stagnation. In addition to that, the rhetoric on Europe has also been changing, now including enlargement fatigue, Grexit, Brexit, West-East and North-South divisions. Meanwhile, anti-EU platforms are gaining terrain and Islamophobia is playing in the hands of populist parties. Where does this leave the Western Balkans? Integrating the Western Balkans is vital for the European Union. From a security point of view, it means securing the southern flank, where important energy routes are being built, as it was highlighted at the very beginning by the Deputy Minister. Economically speaking, these energy routes would provide much needed diversification. And energy lies at the heart of the European project. This is how it all started. But to come back to the above-mentioned paradox and the existing economic gaps, it seems that EU integration and regional cooperation can succeed only if the Western Balkans become a true region, politically, economically, and from a security standpoint. The Ukraine crisis showed that Brussels-inspired solidarity has its limits when conflicting national interests and agendas come into play. Albania has a record of 100% alignment with the EU in foreign policy. Not all in the Western Balkans do. And this means that we are not yet, and still do not act as a true region. The region is an unfinished project security-wise. Albania is a member of NATO, as it has been mentioned during the introductory remarks. 3 other neighboring countries are NATO aspirants, namely Montenegro, which is considered to be on the highway, Macedonia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. Serbia has recently signed EPAP with NATO, while Kosovo is yet to establish structured institutional relations with the alliance. The Western Balkans is still a patchwork of frozen disagreements inherited from a very recent past. If you add to this the fact that security challenges are only 2 hours away in the east and south, then shame. Albania has carried its own share of the burden when it comes to participating in the global fight against ISIL. Our continuous aid and equipment provided to the government of Iraq and eventually to Peshmerga fighters shows that a small country from Western Balkans can become a security contributor provided that there is enough geostrategic reassurances from key allies. Another example that shows how our region can take the lead on wider geostrategic issues is the recent enhanced cooperation against the foreign fighters phenomenon. This was recently highlighted by the declaration of the Southeast European countries on the fight against terrorism, signed in Tirana in the framework of the Albanian chairmanship of the Southeast European cooperation process. Furthermore, the crisis in Ukraine underlines the importance of strategic energy projects such as Trans-Adriatic Pipeline and its Ionian branch, Ionian Adriatic, both for energy efficiency and diversification, and also for the creation of a regional integrated market in full compliance with EU rules and standards. Ensuring energy supply and developing the economy of the region is more and more dependent on the development of energy networks and regional infrastructure. I believe that a better integrated region would accelerate all-inclusive growth and narrow the gap between the countries that are more advanced in the EU integration process and those who are behind. Peace and democratic stability in our region can be transformed into a narrative of social well-being and economic success only through new instruments that the region is actively seeking from the EU. In this context, we are grateful for the constant support and steering of the Visegrad countries. One practical output of the Visegrad Western Balkan cooperation has been the creation of the Western Balkan Fund, which is to be launched soon in Tirana. In a similar fashion, Albania has been playing its part in strengthening regional integration instruments by constantly supporting the promotion and promoting the Berlin process with a view to increase connectivity and to help translate the EU accession process into a tangible agenda of sustainable development for our region. Regional interconnectivity can help release the growth potential that comes with geographical proximity. This is particularly true of Adriatic Europe, where existing synergies must be used to reduce distances and integrate markets in order to help increase the level of income in the wider Adriatic area. We view our EU accession process as the only realistic and viable process. We welcome the recent positive evaluation of the European Commission on Albania's track record and remain strongly committed on the fulfillment of the key 5 priorities for the opening of accession talks with the European Union. Accession talks are an opportunity to better focus on what is to be done, particularly in relation to the rule of law through the benchmarks for chapters 23 and 24, and to beef up regional cooperation in this area. As far as the Western Balkans is concerned, a tangible and credible EU integration process is an irreplaceable support for both domestic reforms and regional cooperation and stability. The Berlin Conference set in motion a process that aims to generate tangible benefits for our citizens out of EU integration and regional cooperation, whilst putting at the very center of these processes economic rule of law and sustainable flagship projects. We thank the European Commission for taking the initiative of proposing and discussing with us a Western Balkans core infrastructure network that will link the region's capitals, economic centers and main ports, ultimately connecting the EU with itself. These projects will allow us to concentrate investments on key areas that will transform the Western Balkans into a true region. Our only hope is that this becomes a reality sooner rather than later. In this context, we seek more than ever the support of Czech Republic as well as of other Visegrad 4 as shining and unquestioned examples of what the EU accession process can achieve in a short time frame. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your concise yet very speed that has opened a lot of topics. And thank you for stressing the importance of the cooperation, the mutual cooperation between both the EU and the Western Balkans. And also, and I found it particularly interesting, by expressing perhaps the short memory we have of our own accession process and of our perception of the EU, very different nowadays than what we are in the European Union, and at the time we were, as Albania, as it is now, as a candidate country, waiting for the negotiations to start. Now I would like to open the floor to our distinguished guests, and please, before I would like to collect perhaps 2 or 3 questions, and I would also like to ask you to present yourself before asking the question. Please.
Mr. Bushati, Albania is known for strong ties with the US. It has strategic partnership with China. Its foreign policy is heavily oriented towards culturally and historically close countries like Italy, Greece, and Turkey. On the other hand, Czechia is one of the countries in the far north from the point of view of a Mediterranean country. Does Czechia have any important or particular features in Albanian eyes? What role, according to your personal opinion, should Czechia play in the Balkans? Thank you.
Thank you, Philip Tesar, who is an associate researcher at the Institute. If there are no other questions at this point, please, if you want to answer.
It seems that I've been very clear, so there are no questions. But I'm going with the first question. I think there is a misunderstanding on the way how our strategic partners have been defined during the questions that has been raised by you. Namely, China is not a strategic partner of Albania. During the communist regime, there has been a special relationship that has been developed. Deputy Minister calling it return to Europe process, and I think there are lots of elements that could be valid and could be applicable also in the Western Balkans in this respect.
Thank you. The questions, comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Pascal Stoichevsky, Estonian Ambassador in Prague. Thank you for sharing your views with us on Albanian perspective on Western Balkan different topics around. I would like to raise a question that you tackled in your presentation regarding the security threats in the European neighborhood. You mentioned Syria, Iraq. Many countries from Europe, including our Western Balkan countries, face the situation that their citizens join the Islamic State. And also another big problem is the flow of migrants through our countries from these areas. Do you see, and these countries answer this situation with enacting laws to curb this situation, Bosnia and Macedonia? Do you see that there might be a perspective to establish a cooperation on the regional level to curb this situation? Thank you.
Yes, it's true that all countries in our region, be it Southeast Europe or Western Balkans, have improved the legislation and also institutional setup in fighting against these phenomena. Also the exchange of information and the level of cooperation among law enforcement agencies, I believe, has been a very good one. But these are issues which falls under the so-called category of repressive measures, if I may put it in this way. My plea is to have a strategic engagement of NATO and EU in security terms in order to complete also the chapters in relation to security in our region. And when I speak about free aspirants, I don't necessarily mean that they should be granted automatically or on a discount ticket membership into NATO, but somehow this process needs to be developed. If I get the example of your country, you are providing a contribution to several missions like being a NATO member country. But if I see the level of enthusiasm and motivation, I'm afraid you would share my opinion that it's not the same as it was a few years ago, where you had high hopes together with Albania and Croatia that would join NATO. The same holds true also for NATO's and EU's relation with two other aspiring countries, and then with Serbia and Kosovo. So basically, this re-engagement, strategic re-engagement of NATO and EU with the countries of our region should bear in mind also the uniqueness of our region in fighting against these global phenomena, because it's a global phenomenon, but it's much more difficult in our society due to the weak structures, due to the complex social fabric and ethnic composite that we have in our societies. And we need to think also for a positive and economic and social narrative basically discouraging this phenomenon, especially in the rural areas. And the question for this is to more involvement, more Europe, and not only more laws and more institutions.
Thank you very much. On this, perhaps you have already opened the question of the security challenges coming from the south. Perhaps I would add a question on the events in Ukraine, which are very high on the political agenda, at least in the Czech Republic. So for Albania, which is geographically more distant compared to the Czech Republic, what is your perception of the war in Ukraine and the EU politics and policy of sanctions and so on?
I think you have lots of information on the state of affairs in relation to this conflict and this crisis with Minsk I and Minsk II, and the involvement of actors and the current debates about federalization versus decentralization. What I'm most interested in this crisis, apart from warfare elements and hybrid warfare elements and the breach of well-accepted norms of international law, is the way how the Ukrainian crisis and this conflict has been perceived in the Western Balkans. In the Western Balkans, basically, you have countries like Serbia and Montenegro that are in the accession table. Montenegro has opened, I don't know, 18 chapters probably. Serbia is still waiting for the green light to start officially the accession talks. Then you get Macedonia and Albania that are candidate countries. And Bosnia and Kosovo are not yet. All countries are under the same obligation, contractual obligation with the European Union to align their foreign policy position to that of the European Union, and this is not a ticking box exercise. Basically, it has to do with the level of preparedness of the country in harmonizing foreign policy position with that of the European Union, and also in showing some kind of political determination for it. Unfortunately, we have seen, for the sake of truth, only Albania and Montenegro responding 100% to the European Union, to the sanctions policy, and also to the foreign policy position to the crisis, which brings me back to the first point of my introductory remarks, that we are not yet a region in political terms, and then there is also a sub-element out of this crisis in Ukraine. The application for the first time after 20 years, 25 years since the collapse of the communist regime, of these politics of spheres of influence, that there is a clear tendency that this can be translated also in the Balkans at a lesser degree, at a lesser extent. But this is quite evident. If one refers to Russian stance on the UN Security Council, when there was this discussion about the extension of the mandate of UN in Bosnia, Russia wanted to delete any reference on potential or future Euro-Atlantic aspiration of Bosnia. When we decided to move ahead with Serbia, and when Prime Minister of Albania made his first visit after 70 years in Serbia, in Belgrade, that took place last year, we had difficult times in agreeing on an agreement that had references to the Euro-Atlantic aspirations and integrations of the region. So you are basically testing the first elements of the application of these spheres of influence also in the Western Balkans. And again, I believe there is a need for more careful consideration on the way how Western Balkans should be anchored into EU waters.
Thank you very much.
And if I may add something, and why I see it mostly through political lens, because it's quite difficult to say that other countries that did not align their positions to EU has been affected by the sanctions because of the lack of geographical proximity. So I can understand countries in part of the neighborhood or countries that are neighbors with Ukraine, but in the Western Balkans it's mostly an external influence, coupled also with lack of enthusiasm about EU accession process, because in some cases it seems that it's becoming a little bit more bureaucratic and it's lacking the political soul and political motivation.
Thank you. Yes, please.
As for geographical proximity, the Western Balkans are not the only Balkans, and Albania, during the period of the so-called national awakening, does Albania will develop relations with these two countries in some way? And please, as for security issues, what about Albanian Serbian security cooperation, particularly in the way of exchange of information? Thank you.
And the first question was in relation to Albania's cooperation with Romania and Bulgaria.
Yes.
Our cooperation with Romania and Bulgaria, it's a very good one, and also be it within NATO, but also in different forums, especially within the framework of Southeast European cooperation process. Certainly, Bulgaria and Romania are members of Balkans in a more enlarged package, because I was referring mostly to the Western Balkans. And there is an exchange of views and visits and in different formats that are taking place in our region. They belong to Southeast European cooperation process. When it comes to our relations with Serbia, there are relations that have been characterized by lots of prejudgments and difficulties, to say the least. We are determined to open up new chapters of relations with Serbia, and I think we have demonstrated a solid will in this direction, also with the visit of Prime Minister to Serbia last year. If I would analyze the benefits of the Berlin process that was launched last year by Chancellor Merkel, a specific initiative on Western Balkans, I think one of the outputs of this Berlin process has been an improved relation, or the tendency to normalize relations between Albania and Serbia. Certainly this does not substitute the normalization process between Serbia and Kosovo, or the dialogue that is being mediated by European Union. We have signed also a few agreements with Serbia. I think the level of cooperation in the fight against terrorism has been quite good. But this is it for the moment, and we have carefully reviewed also the steps Serbia undertook in the process of signing EBAP with NATO, since we are a member country, and we are very much interested also for democratic stability in our region, and we have voiced also concerns about their cooperation in security terms and defense, specifically with Russia, and about the so-called niche center that has been heavily supported by Russia. Basically, we have always encouraged Serbia to move away from the so-called foreign policy of sitting in two chairs. It's quite difficult to sit in two chairs nowadays.